Welcome back to Spring into Math 7. I'm Mrs. Campbell, and today we're going to be talking about scale drawings and maps. Let's get started. Okay, so let's start off with some definitions of what maps and scales are. All right, so maps, really, they represent real places. They're reduced to fit onto a single piece of paper, and they're accurate representations because they use scales. So now let's talk a little bit about scales. Well, scales are basically just ratios that relate the small size of a representation of a place to the real size of a place. Okay, a little bit more about scales and ratios. So we use units of measurement to create a ratio that is our scale. Now this ratio compares two things. It compares the small size of the object or the place to the actual size of an object or place. And maybe you've done this before in the past where you've made a scale model of something that's larger. That's basically what we're talking about. Okay, so here's an example. A scale of 1 inch to 1 foot means that 1 inch on paper represents 1 foot in real space. So it would be written as 1 inch to 1 foot, and that would be our scale. Okay, really we can make scales of any size. So for example, an inch can represent 1,000 miles. If, for instance, you were doing like a map of a continent or something like that. Or a centimeter could represent 1 meter if you were doing something like the dimensions of a map of a room. All right, so let's try. If the scale on a map is 1 inch to 500 miles, how far is a city that measures 5.5 inches? So we know that for every inch, it's going to equal 500 miles. And you're probably thinking, oh, this is actually really simple. And it is. Because all you have to do is multiply. So we're going to multiply 5.5 times 500. And the distance is 2,750 miles. Simple enough, just basic multiplication. Okay, let's talk about some other ways, another way that you can solve scale questions. So another way we can solve questions relating to scale by writing two ratios. So for example, let's pretend that our scale is 2 inches to 1 foot. So then if we know that, then let's look at the question. What is the actual measurement if a drawing shows an object as 6 inches long? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by writing a ratio that compares the scale. So we've got 1 foot to 2 inches. Remember proportions, equals x feet, or we don't know, over 6 inches. Okay, so basically what we did is we just wrote a proportion. And we can solve either just with mental math. You might be able to figure it out. 2 times what equals 6, and 1 times what equals x. So we are going to know. You might be able to tell just by looking at it that it's going to be 3. But let's do it by actually cross-multiplying and work it out. So if we were to cross-multiply, it would be 6 equals 2x. Then we're going to divide both sides by 2. And then once we simplify, we get x equals 3. So the actual object is 3 feet long. Okay, now let's talk about how to find the scale when we're given actual dimensions. So to do this, we're going to work in reverse. So to make a map, we need to shrink actual distances to a smaller size. So again, we use the scale instead of solving for the actual distance. We're going to solve this time for the map distance. All right, here's an example. You're making a map of some towns, and you know that Trolley City and Oakton are 350 kilometers apart. And we're using a scale of 1 centimeter to 10 kilometers. How far apart should you draw the dots representing the two cities? So don't let all the information get you confused or panicked, because all you need to do is incorporate the information that you know a little bit at a time. So we're going to use the scale to write the ratios that make our proportion. Then we're going to fill in the information we know. Now this time we know the actual distance between the two towns, so we put that in and then solve for the map distance. So this is what our proportion looks like. 1 to 10, 1 centimeter to 10 kilometers equals x centimeters, or we're not sure, we don't know, to equal 350 kilometers, or to represent 350 kilometers. So now we just need to cross multiply. So we get 1 centimeter times 350 kilometers equals 10 kilometers times x, an unknown number of centimeters. We cross multiply and we get 350 equals 10x. Divide both sides by 10 and we get that x equals 35. So our answer is 35 centimeters. Okay, now we can figure out the scale using a model and actual object too. So here's an example of this. Jesse wants to build a model of a building. The building is, let's highlight this, 100 feet tall. If Jesse uses a scale of 1 inch to 25 feet, how tall will his model be? Now you might be able to figure this one out also using mental math, but let's look at the steps. Okay. You're going to start by looking at the scale and writing a proportion to show what you know. So you have 1 inch to 25 feet equals x inches, unknown variable there. We don't know how many inches for 100 feet. Well, you might know. You may have already figured it out. We're going to cross multiply, and we get 1 times 100 equals 25x. Then we're going to do the multiplication and divide both sides by 25, and we're left with x equals 4. So Jesse's model will be 4 inches tall. All right, everybody, that just about wraps it up for this lesson. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.